plan, and how do we know where we're going to go? That's what people ask us all the time, and we're going to answer that question in this week's video. How are you?
Did you see how am I?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good, but that's not the question you were supposed to ask me. You were supposed to say, where are we?
Where are we?
Where are we? We are we're in Seattle, Washington, and we're going to be here for another couple weeks. We're at a great house sit, and pretty soon we're going to be getting on a cruise to go to Sydney, Australia. We're going to be down under for about 6 months.
Yeah.
When we talk about intentions, this is something that we've been planning for a long time. I'm going to Australia.
Yeah. Why are we going to Australia?
Why are we going to Australia?
Well, so actually, the reason why we are going to Sydney is because we were in Malaysia. But we were in Singapore. So what happened in Singapore that made us want to go to Sydney?
Well, we were in Singapore last winter for New Year's Eve, for Chris's birthday and New Year's Eve. And we saw the most amazing fireworks display. I think it just totally blew my mind. I just loved it. And we looked at each other on that New Year's Eve and we said, oh my gosh, how do we top this next year?
Well, I mean, the Singapore fireworks show had Japanese fireworks, it had traditional fireworks, it had a drone show, it had light work. It was
laser
like a 90-minute extravaganza of the sky.
It was crazy.
And we were in this boat, and we were on the lake at Marina Bay Sands, right?
Right.
And right next to where they blow off the fireworks, and just having. But why were we in Singapore?
Well, we were in Singapore because we were in Malaysia for Chris's knee surgery, and the fireworks got canceled for some reason.
Yeah, they had a flood, and they used the money for the fireworks for the flood victims, and so they canceled the fireworks and redistributed that money to take care of the flood victims, which was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But it canceled the fireworks show, and so we're like, well, we can't have New Year's Eve without fireworks. But the reason why we can't have New Year's Eve without fireworks is because you have this crazy obsession with fireworks.
Yeah, so I love fireworks, and I know some people that are watching could care less about fireworks or not. But I have always loved fireworks shows, and I'm not the kind of person that needs to be like a mile away, like, oh yeah, you can see fireworks. No, I need to be at ground zero because it's like the adrenaline and the lights and the explosions, and I figure if you're going to have a fireworks show, you need to be in the fireworks.
See, this is why you and my sister get along so well, because my sister's birthday is on 4th of July.
Yeah.
And she was like 10 when she realized that the fireworks weren't all for her. But she's like every year it's fireworks for my sister's birthday, and you guys watch the fireworks.
Yeah, but we don't travel just because we want to see fireworks, but we are going to Sydney to see the fireworks. But when you think about the kind of reasons that we're going to Australia, it's a country that we've never been to. It's a huge, beautiful country. We love nature. We love outdoors.
Has a Tasmanian devil.
We have a Tasmanian devil. All the kinds of things that want to eat you in Australia. And it's just the kind of place that we have, personally have always, dreamed of going to.
But I think the number one reason is because we're following 72 degrees, and when it's 20 degrees in the United States, it's 80 degrees in Australia because the seasons are flipped. So we're headed for Australia for the summer and fall, and leaving behind winter and spring, right? Or fall.
Why
Get
not?
them backwards. Anyway.
Exactly. And
nonetheless,
so
we'll be in Australia when the weather is good.
Exactly. And we're actually intentionally planning our trip through Australia to be able to follow the good weather, so that we're as the southernmost points in the
Sydney and Tasmania and Brisbane, Adelaide and Melbourne, right? Yeah, so that's why we're headed to Australia. But traveling with intention is, I think when you're a tourist, your intention is to go to the tourist spots. But when you're doing this full-time nomad life, your intention kind of gets a little bit broader and wider than just going to the tourist spots. Because even though they're fantastic, and of course I want to see the pyramids, and of course I want to see the Eiffel Tower, and of course I want to see Buckingham Palace. But after you've done all those things, there needs to be another reason that you travel. And we've got friends all over the world now that one's traveling because they're going to all the snorkeling sites, and another for the scuba sites. One person is wanting to live in every state in the United States.
People that search out castles, and
and they're going to all the different castles,
right.
And some are doing the UNESCO World Heritage Site list or the Seven Wonders of the World. So, I mean, some of those are touristy, but some of them are just other people. We've got friends who are doing this program called Angloville, where they go teach or they speak English in these English villages that other non-English speakers come to and stay for a couple weeks, and they're just the English speakers there. So it's not teaching English, it's just living English, I guess. So anyway, there's just so many ways that you can experience the world not through the tourist destination sites, which is kind of what we're talking about. And we want
to talk about specifically how we do our planning, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thank you for subscribing. We really appreciate
we hit 3,000 subscribers. Thank you to all the 3,000 people who love us. Yeah. Tell your friends. So anyway, I think we've kind of hit on the intention side of doing, when you're traveling full-time as nomads, it's more than just the tourist destinations. Right. But that, needless to say, when we go to the Australia, we'll do the Great Barrier Reef and the Sydney Harbor and maybe Uluru, Ayers Rock, and all of the things that you do in Australia. But we'll also do our normal life, like hiking and volunteering and finding plant-based foods and just house sitting and so on. So a lot of people ask us how we actually plan. So we're going to give you some insight into the tools and way the two of us work together to plan. So we started off with we're in Malaysia, and we know we want to get to Sydney for New Year's Eve. We already had plans to do Southeast Asia and the United States for the summertime. So we knew that one of the big rocks that we wanted to place in was how to get back to down to the southern hemisphere, and we didn't want to fly. So the first thing we did is we looked at repositioning cruises and booked a repositioning cruise that leaves out of Los Angeles in a couple weeks, and it takes us 26 days to get down to Sydney. Yeah. So that was our first rock that we placed in place, and that gets us to Australia in November. So from that, then what did we start doing?
Well, so what I like to do is start thinking about accommodations. Once we're in Australia and we're planning on being there for 6 months, we're not going to get into all the details about the visa situation and how you stay for 6 months. We'll leave that for another video. But where are we going to stay? And we are doing a lot of house sitting these days, especially in countries that are much more expensive.
Again, you see our video up here about house sitting.
Another way of being intentional. Some people may just want to go to low-cost countries, and they want to be in Southeast Asia and places
Thailand or Vietnam
or Central America, some places that have a lower cost of living. So with our intentions of being in Australia, we know it's going to be a higher cost of living country. We want to look for house sits and be able to kind of offset that accommodations.
Right, but the first thing we do is we look at geography. So we're going to start off in Sydney, and there were some places in particular we wanted to go to. So we want to go to Brisbane, we want to go to Melbourne, we want to go to Adelaide, and we go to Tasmania. So everything else geographically, if we can work it in or we can get a house sit that makes sense, we'll go there. So the first thing we did is we pulled up our spreadsheet, the famous spreadsheet. We'll show you a picture of what our spreadsheet looks like. It's really not that complicated. And we've got a running calendar of our dates, and then a running geography of where the approximate amount of days that we're going to be. So it's kind of a sandbox. So we put in, we want to be in Brisbane for 30 days. So we'll put 30 days in, and then maybe geographically we'll put Sydney in, and then Melbourne, and kind of geographically fill out the calendar, the spreadsheet. Right. And then we actually keep a running total of how many days we're in the country, so that affects the visa. So there's certain visa requirements for each country or each location. Yep. And then we'll put notes next to the locations. So having done that, then we'll put up an alert for trusted house sitters where we're looking, for example, we're looking for someplace in Brisbane, and we'll put up an alert. And then what happens when we get an alert?
We act on it quickly. And that's one of the important things about house sitting is you got to be fast and be able to apply to those sits. So we keep that alert going and get those notifications.
And then once we secure the sit, then we clean up the spreadsheet a little bit with the actual dates. So maybe we had Brisbane for 30 days and the sit's only 26 days. So we clear that up. And then we go to Google Calendar and we actually plug in the either confirmation numbers or addresses or names and locations and phone numbers or whatever, the content information or contact information.
And sometimes we actually get the dates right. and sometimes we get the dates
Okay,
a day or two,
screwed
or
up
maybe
once.
a week wrong.
I've only screwed up once that it cost us any money. But yeah, I tend to, especially when you're looking at future dates in Sydney where they're not really our dates, so that you've got the international date line going
tomorrow
on.
there right now.
Anyway, but yeah, I tend to I have to ask him like 7 times when I'm about to book something. Is it really Wednesday the 22nd? And then I'll book Wednesday the 23rd.
And this is a way that we kind of, double check each other and work together. It's like making sure that the schedule for the flights or the schedule for the house sit or the dates, are exactly
or whatever,
really what we intend them to be.
Right.
And put them on the calendar. And then once it's, the idea is when it's on the calendar, that's like,
we're done. We can move on. Yeah, we can move on to the next thing.
And a lot of the spreadsheet is a lot of what ifs, so these are intentions and these are things that we want to do, but it's not necessarily exactly because we don't want to forget and miss something. So we put something on a particular date, and that's not on the spreadsheet. It doesn't mean that we're doing it on that date until we actually say, yes, this is the date we're doing it. And then it goes on the calendar, and then it doesn't really matter what's on the
So then
spreadsheet.
So once we get one thing done, so we're in Sydney, or we're in Australia for 6 months. We're trying to do a majority of that time with house sits. So as we're securing the houses, we're plugging them into the spreadsheet. Now, sometimes house sits match up exactly, that it ends and starts on the same day, but most of the time we end up with a gap, 3 or 4 days or a week or whatever. And so then on the spreadsheet, we leave that gap, and then we start kind of brainstorming about, what could we, if we're going to be if we've been in Brisbane for a month, most of the time with house sits, we can't do any overnight things, or we can't do any 2 or 3 days away because we've got pets to need to take care of. So then we hold that week or so in between house sits to do the little day trips from the locations where we are, so that we can do those things finally. Like for example, we were in Italy on a house sit in Naples, and we couldn't do anything while we were in Naples, but after we finished in Naples, we went to Sicily for a week because that was someplace we wanted to do. Then we met some friends in Florence. That was identified time, and then we had time after that. We kind of flitted around and did other places. So those gaps in between the house sits are where we actually do like our tourism and our checklist of things, right? Because I think a lot of people think when you house sit, you can't do that stuff.
Well, you can. I mean, so for example, we're going to be in almost a month in Brisbane, and we're going to do everything that we want to do in that community. We're just not going to be able to get outside and
to the Great Barrier Reef, for example. So I mean, the Great Barrier
6 hours away.
Yeah, that's a big, at least a 1-day trip, if not a 3 or 4 day trip, depending on what you want to do. So once we finish up with Brisbane, we'll go to the Great Barrier Reef and do all that, and then we'll go to our next house sit.
Kind of getting back to intentions. One of our intentions that we tell people all the time is that we're on this like house hunt. So we're looking for places that we want to go back to, and maybe we want to go back to for a longer period of time, maybe even, find a place permanently. So we need to be able to stay someplace for a while. So again, our intentions are to move slowly. We're not trying to go as fast as we can. And,
right. And a lot of the places that we house sit are places that we think we might want to live long term, and we get to kind of try on the neighborhood and try on the atmosphere of that particular town.
So I don't think we're ever going to live in the Great Barrier Reef, but we still want to go there. We want to do that.
I wonder if there's like a full-time snorkel you could get and just live in your snorkel.
I just like, call me Nemo.
Call you Nemo.
I'm going to live at the Great Barrier Reef.
You want to be Nemo instead of maybe an octopus or a shark?
Oh, yeah. What was the shark?
Or a turtle.
Name? No.
Yeah.
No, turtles are smart, but they kind of move slow.
Yeah. Well, that's
I don't
us.
think I want to be
We're
Nemo
nomads. Well, anyway, regardless what animal you want to be in the sea.
Nemo's dad. I'd be Nemo's dad.
Nemo's dad.
Did Tom Hanks play Nemo's dad?
I don't know. All right, all you Nemo fans, all you Disney fans, tell us who Tom's Hank.
We want to live full time on the Great Barrier Reef. Let's help us do that.
And then what's the current called?
The current, the ocean current.
Yeah, see, clearly we're not Nemo fans, Nemo fanatics. Anyway, as we segue off of this topic, so that's how we plan. So we start in the spreadsheet and we end up on.
Yeah, and a lot of other tools that we're going to use besides just a calendar and a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
So just like Google Maps, just to figure out where places are. I mean, I know that's kind of normal.
Google Flights, and Skyscanner. Skyscanner.
It's called Skyscanner.
Yeah, Skyscanner.
Yeah.
Skyscanner, Google Flights, we use those all the time to see where flights are and what the prices should be. With flights, we actually book at the particular airline website, always. And then we use Booking.com a ton. And we use Booking.com now probably more than any other accommodation website, including Airbnb. We hardly ever use Airbnb anymore. And sometimes in Southeast Asia, we'll use Agoda, but Booking is owned by Agoda, or Agoda owns Booking or whatever.
Yeah, depending on where you are.
Yeah, but Booking tends to be the place that really pans out for us the most with prices, and now we're like genius level 900 or something, and we get a nice discount by using Booking. So, and then and those are... What?
I was going to mention vacations to go. So if you're looking at cruises, this is a great way that shows not every cruise, but it definitely shows a great list of cruises. Specifically, you can search for repositioning cruises, which is what we look for, and see them all together. So you're not going to 5 different websites trying to find repositioning cruises.
Right, and speaking of that, talking about our big blocks and kind of how our calendar works, we know we're taking a repositioning cruise back to the States in April. So that's already on our spreadsheet. It's blocked out, and now we're working on that space in between. So and we're actually going to do a video here soon about repositioning down under and some of the 7 or 8 myths of what happens on a repositioning cruise. So watch for that video coming up soon. If you have any questions about Australia or advice about where we should go, we're going to be there 6 months, let us know. Or if you have any questions about tools, or if you have tools you want to share with us, we would love to hear them. Give us some comments, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.